Welcome to AAC from A to Z Module 1. This training will help you understand AAC and what needs to be considered and done before getting an alternative communication system for your student. If you are hoping to learn the ins and outs of AAC, you are in the right place. Pay close attention during the slides because I may mention some free resources. I'm a speech pathologist. My name is Lori Lewis, and I've been in the field of speech pathology for 27 years, and I still love it. It's so rewarding to see the looks on your student's face when they are given the right tools to get their wants and needs met. Behaviors usually decrease, and their family is usually elated that they are on the path to finally making progress. I believe that AAC is a language, and if we speak and model it daily, our students will learn it. Project Access has gone above and beyond to provide you with trainings that target evidence-based strategies. In this workshop, we're going to focus on all the basics of AAC, resources to get a quality assessment, and how to use it in your classrooms. Check out the additional trainings that are offered and decide which ones will provide you with the best tools for your students. This training has been divided into two different modules. There are only 3 objectives that will be talked about throughout the modules. Each module is around 60 minutes in length. This should help us all stay on task and not get so overwhelmed. This is the first objective, back to the basics. Each objective will help us answer questions that we have had about AAC. In this objective, back to the basics, we are answering the question, what? What is AAC? What are the options for AAC? And what are the myths about AAC? There are a lot of people who don't understand what AAC stands for. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you a really good definition going forward so that we can all be on the same page. It's augmentative and alternative communication, and it's any device, system, or method that improves the ability of a child with a communication impairment to communicate effectively. So as we move forward through the module, I think you'll be surprised at what is classified as an AAC device and what is used for communication. Look at all the things that we can use for AAC that is an alternative to verbal communication. Texting, emails, facial expressions, gestures, manual sign, body language. Can you think of any others? AAC. There's no-tech and unaided systems. There's low-tech aided systems, light-tech, static systems, and high-tech dynamic systems. So let's briefly define these, and then on the next slide I will show you some examples of what those things look like. Okay, so the first one is no-tech unaided systems. These do not require extra equipment. They're things like pointing, gestures, facial expressions, body language, sign language. These are some of the first signs of communication, and I usually pair them with any low-tech or high-tech system to help with understanding. And just to kind of add something else to the to this information is I never just teach a high-tech system because high-tech sometimes messes up. And so you always want an alternative in case the electricity goes out or the charge you're unable to charge, or the device is broken, or the batteries need replaced, or it needs to be sent to the company. So always have an alternative. And then the next one is low tech. This does not require a battery. It can be a picture, a symbol book, an alphabet board, a feelings chart, a manual lamp board. We'll talk about what a lamp board is a little bit later, but LAMP stands for Language Acquisition and Motor Planning. It's one of my favorite systems, and I think you'll love it too. The next one is Light Tech. So Light Tech are things like a Cheap Talk 8, a Big Mac button. You can usually record a static message on this equipment, and it helps students to begin the understanding that my words mean something. So I say this, and then this happens. It's a cause and effect uh, type of device. I don't believe that this is a prerequisite before a dynamic device, but it is something to consider with each student when you are in the beginning stages of teaching them to get their needs and wants met. And then the next one is high-tech dynamic display. This is my absolute favorite. And I work with multiple students in my building, and I have at least 3 to 4 dynamic devices that I'm learning or I'm using each year. So I don't consider the language of the AA system to be any different than speaking English or Spanish or any other language. It's the child's language, and it's our job to learn and model for them so that they can learn from us. High tech would be like the language acquisition motor planning, so LAMP, that would be considered a high tech. Another one would be the Tobii Dynavox eye gaze. That's a, a, a high tech dynamic device. Proloquo to go is a dynamic device. So there's lots out there. And it just kind of depends on what each individual child needs at that time. So now that we've done the definitions for the different devices, let's look at the different devices and see if we can figure out if they are low tech or no tech, low tech, light tech, or high tech. So let's go over here to the left. See the little girl that is pointing to her elbow, the Band-Aid? Would that be no tech or low tech? You're right. It would be no tech because it's a gesture and it doesn't require batteries and it doesn't require a picture. So it's definitely no tech. So I always pair that, like I said, with others so that they have a manual way of communicating. It's our first communication mode, so it's it's probably important to pair that so that they will start connecting those two. Let's see, go down underneath the little girl that's pointing to her elbow to the picture exchange communication system, also known as PEX. So is that a no tech, low tech, or light tech? Yep, it's a low tech because it does not require a battery and it's a picture system. So that's a low tech system. And picture exchange communication system is not one of my favorites. And we can talk about the differentiation between picture exchange communication systems and some of the other manual low techs that I would prefer and the ones that I use. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, and I'll give you a little bit more detail about what that looks like. Then let's do the one to the, let's do the one that has the red Big Mac button. The picture there has a Big Mac. It also has a Cheap Talker 8, and then it also has another talker that has just a blue button and a yellow button. So are those devices light tech or high tech? You're right, they're light tech because they require a battery and they also can record static messages or one-word utterances. So that is why that's a light tech. Let's go all the way over to the other side where it says I am feeling, and that's a feeling communication board. It's a manual board. It's pictures, so which one is it? Yep, it's low tech. It doesn't require batteries, and it also requires a picture, and it's not a gesture. So good job. Let's talk about the two in the middle, the eye gaze system and the lamp system. That's an easy one, isn't it? It's high tech. It's very sophisticated, and most of the devices, or at least those two there, the eye gaze system is, I think it's using lamp, and then also the one below it, the lamp system is, that's probably it's the lamp system probably on an accent device is what it looks like, and those are both high tech, and those are both motor planning communication systems. And then the last one is a lamp manual board. And I like to, if I'm using the lamp manual board, if I'm using the lamp high-tech device, then I always teach a manual board with that. I pair it with that so that if the tech system is down, then they have another option. I also use the manual board if I feel like the student is capable of communicating their wants and needs using a lamp manual board, but they may have behaviors that will not allow them at this particular time to have a high-tech device, and because it could be dangerous. I have a lot of students who throw them. They're very expensive, so it wouldn't be a good choice for us to use at that time. But as they start communicating and as they start learning to use the manual boards to communicate, a lot of times their behaviors will go down, and as those behaviors go down, then I always will introduce the high tech. Sometimes I even use it just as a model along beside the manual board, as long as I keep my hands on it very tight, so it doesn't get thrown across the room. So anyway, I think you did a great job with that, and we will move on to the next slide now. Okay, so now I'm going to get to talk about my love language. And my love language is the LAMP, the Language Acquisition and Motor Planning system. And the reason I love this is because it follows the developmental sequence of learning language, and it's one of the only systems that does this. I always trial this one because the students, you can make it as simple all the way to as to complex as you want it to be. So it grows with the child's development, as well as how they're progressing through the language sequences. It makes everyone's life a little bit easier because teachers and SLPs, they do not have to manually build the system based on the kids' wants and needs. It's already done for you. What you're seeing here is the first 84 words, and they're called the core words. And core words make up about 96.3% of all the language that's learned by the age of 5 for kids to get their wants and needs met. So I think that's very important. And then the LAMP also has a level 2 and a level 3 system that's embedded, and that is where you find all the fringe words, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the training about what the differences of those two things are. I want to give you more of a definition of LAMP, because I think that is important for us to look at, and to understand that why the motor planning is so important and why it actually works so well with the students that we work with, especially if they're on the spectrum and they're nonverbal. So this is one of the clinical definitions, language acquisition through motor planning. It's a therapeutic approach using motor learning principles, a voice output communication aid to give nonverbal individuals with autism or other developmental disabilities a method to develop independent and spontaneous communication. Individuals using the LAMP approach learn to use words, build sentences, and communicate their wants and needs and ideas by pressing a button on a speech generating device. And it's always in the same place, so you are also building on the learned knowledge as well as the motor plan. It it works with the core deficits affecting language delay, such as impaired motor skills, engagement, auditory and sensory processing, to improve spontaneous and generative communication. The LAMP method is a combination of principles to teach language, and it's the way that it's programmed targets the readiness skills to learn, joint engagement, consistent and unique motor patterns for words, auditory signals, and natural consequences. So that makes it almost the perfect tool to learn a language. And that's kind of my infomercial for LAMP. And if you get a chance to go to any of the trainings, you definitely want to do that. It's definitely worth the money. It's excellent. I learned so much about teaching language just from going to this training, and then that's where I decided that, well, not really I decided, I'd already had the passion to work with students who were nonverbal, but this definitely solidified it, and I couldn't wait to get back to work to try some of these skills out. So I hope you like it as much as I do, and if you can't get a dedicated device with the voice activation, definitely try the manual board. It works well too.